This is the group which has a record of doing this, is full of prisoners and murderers, quite literally full of murderers, admits to this activity, has filmed themselves doing this activity, and oh, it's so surprising that they would be caught at just this moment. This is just obfuscating. This is the fact that they don't want to accept what happened on this footage, because then they look like pieces of shit. Because then they look like heartless who don't care when ISIS-style beheadings happen. I wanted to talk about Kim Iverson and her allegation that a beheading video that we were all horrified by about 10 days ago. I don't know, for those of you who don't know, there were multiple beheading videos, which is a crazy thing to say out loud. There were multiple beheading videos that leaked online of Ukrainian POWs getting beheaded, one of which seemed to show them alive while they're getting beheaded, as well as their heads then being placed upon sticks by the Wagner group. The video is very graphic. I can't show it here, both because of Twitch TOS and because it's just very not unpleasant. It's very unpleasant. If you need to go see it, you can go see it. I would advise against it. It's not good to look at. Zelensky condemned it. A lot of the international community condemned it. And it is honestly pretty horrific. But this is pretty standard for the Wagner group. The Wagner group has been known for their brutality. In fact, they do this on purpose, and they publish these videos on purpose. The reason they do this is they want to be a terrifying force. Russia uses the Wagner group as a private military company, not only because it allows them to not allocate like the casualties the Wagner group takes in the official Russian military casualty numbers, which allows them to, keep the numbers lower, but it also allows them to have a barrier of deniability, where if the Wagner group goes and does this and goes and does that, they say, no, that wasn't us. We were not, when they were smashing those POWs' hands with sledgehammers and executing their own with sledgehammers on camera and then uploading it onto social media before then taking sledgehammers, and branding it with the Wagner logo and sending it to European politicians and sending it to gifts to other people, bragging about the fact that they so brutally execute people in a medieval manner as they openly brag about their war crimes. This is the type of behavior they're engaged in, and they would openly, and Russia can say, oh, well, that's not us. There's a barrier of deniability, and Wagner can have this terrifying presence. It allows the Russians to have the benefit of a population terrified to resist them, terrified of the Wagner group, terrified of the Russian army, but specifically more than anything else, the Wagner group and organizations like Roosters, but especially the Wagner group, they've become especially notorious, while Russia can deny being a part of it. So they get the benefits of the war crimes and the horror and the disgustingness, while some amount of deniability. Wagner has been very, 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 very open with the war crimes they commit. There's multiple interviews done by both The Guardian and independent investigators of Wagner soldiers admitting to killing children, to killing civilians. There's footage of the Wagner group killing civilians. There's footage of themselves executing old soldiers with sledgehammers. There's footage of them engaging whole tons of atrocities. There's testimony posted from them on social media of their atrocities, intercepted communications of their atrocities. They're proud of their atrocities, and they advertise it for the world to see. That's why they post it online, to intimidate the civilian population. It's the same reason why Russian state media, it's one of many reasons they do this, the same reason Russian state media makes a point about, hey, we should displace as many Ukrainian refugees as possible to make them suffer as much as possible, so maybe they'll give in. That's real things said on Russian state media. They've said things of a similar style when it comes to flattening cities. And Russia, and let me also say, this is not even something that a lot of the Russian state media talking heads, because Wagner Group is just like, they wear it like a patch. But when you get to the Russian state media talking heads, when they talk to their own population, they usually will deny it to some degree, like, oh, no, never. We would never do that. The sledgehammer stuff, they didn't. But, oh, we would never do that. But with this, there was actually Russian state talking heads on Russian state TV saying things like, look, is this bad? Yeah, it's bad. Will I condemn it? Absolutely not. I'm a patriot and will not condemn the armed forces. So even when cornered, they will say, we will not condemn this type of behavior. And we're really surprised that this type of behavior is frequent, is commonplace. When we listen to the type of rhetoric that is played on Russian state TV, which is talking about, oh, Ukraine doesn't have a right to exist, and they're all bandit right Nazis, and they're all evil, and they're all coming to get you, and they're all going to make your kids gay. And oh, they're self-hating Russians. They're self-hating Russians, and they're parasites, as Dmitry Medvedev, the former president of Russia and a current Russian government official, close ally of Putin since the campaign trail, said in a public statement. I mean, it's not that surprising that this is happening, but Kim Iverson had a guest on her show when this footage came out because she wanted to put forth some other theories. The theory that maybe this was a deep fake. And you can't see the thumbnail for this video. Actually, I think we'll go to her channel and we'll go see the thumbnail quickly. The thumbnail, as you can see right, actually you can't see it right here. You can see right here in the top right-hand corner, deep fake. Gruesome video of Russian beheading Ukrainian POW sends shockwaves. Disturbing or deep fake video? Let's listen to what she has to say. This is pretty, I think, overtly ridiculous and overtly disgusting, considering that now we're trying to cover for this authoritarian regime, but and their atrocities. But let's listen to what she has to say and what her guest has to say.
Well, I woke up this morning to a horrific video being circulated on social media. We're not going to show you the actual video, just blurred images. The video is unconfirmed. It does allegedly show Russian soldiers, allegedly from the Wagner group, beheading a Ukrainian POW alive, and it is very gruesome, very horrific. After the gruesome killing, they hold his head in their hands. The video looks very authentic, but of course there's always the possibility that things aren't exactly as they seem. Now, the Russians have responded to this video.
There's no independent organization that has reviewed this footage that has come away with the conclusion, wow, that's fake, or that could be fake, or, oh, we walked away with the conclusion that this was staged. There's nobody came away with that conclusion. Nobody who has reviewed this type of war footage has come away with this conclusion. And this type of behavior falls perfectly within line of what they engage in on a regular basis. But let's continue.
Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told reporters at a daily briefing that the footage was terrible. And then he said, first of all, in the world of fakes that we live in, we need to check the veracity of this footage.
Well, that's the thing that's so interesting to me, is the Russians will usually just deny it flat out. But for this one, it's like, I don't know. Who knows? Even when the evidence was overwhelming in Bucha, and we know now, due to the satellite photos, due to the video of them doing the rounding up and the executions and the war crimes, due to the photos, due to testimony, due to the biological evidence, due to the overwhelming evidence and the intercepted communications, everything, we know that they committed the Bucha massacre. They still deny it, and in this war crime, their response is basically, "Oh, that's bad." But I don't know. And then you go on to Russian state TV and they're asked to condemn it. I will not condemn the actions I saw in this video. It's terrible. I will not condemn the actions. Come on.
Zelensky responded to the video saying there is something that no one in the world can ignore, how easily these beasts kill. We are not going to forget anything, neither are we going to forgive the murderers. Ukraine's foreign minister also demands that Russia be kicked out of the UN in response to the video. The EU pledges to hold war criminals to account after seeing the footage. And many are calling for increased funding and help from NATO nations as a result of seeing this horrific, very horrific, gut-wrenching video.
Is that really that surprising? If you know that that is what awaits Ukrainians with occupation. We had the largest mass grave in all of Europe since the Yugoslav genocides uncovered in Izium, over 440 bodies. And that's just one. We have entire cities wiped off the map, like in Popasna, by the overwhelming Russian barrage, which it does not care whether civilians or non-civilians die. I've personally recorded the Russians not caring as they kill civilians. In the city of Mykolaiv, at the start of the Kherson counteroffensive, they just fired randomly, just doing everything they can to try to stop the advance, including peppering the city center during rush hour. Right? This is the type of behavior they engage in on a regular basis, and seeing something like this, so graphic and so just gutturally disgusting, will encourage people to say, wow, I think it's okay to arm the people who are the dividing line between mass graves and not mass graves. Oh, I accidentally clicked the link. Where were we? Oh, here we are.
But what is the right response to something horrific like this? Joining us now is known anti-war Senate candidate Diane Sayre. Diane is an independent LaRouche candidate challenging Kirsten Gillibrand for the Senate seat. Diane, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much.
Now, before we get into this, you can be rest assured this person doesn't have a chance at all of taking Kirsten Sinema's seat. So for anybody who thinks that this is like a mainstream American politician, for those who are not familiar with American politics, no, this is like a fringe candidate in the LaRoucheite movement who doesn't really have any really relevance and is, I've only ever met them once, and it was at the Rage Against the War Machine rally. That's the only time I've ever met LaRoucheites in person. To just show, again, they're usually at these fringe events. They're not extremely mainstream.
Is the right response to something horrific like this that has been circulating on social media?
Well, certainly not watching it. I think the experts should be allowed to do that.
Oh my God, dog, it's so on the nose, man. It's so on the nose. It's so on the nose. Oh, look at us. We're independent alt media. We're not like we're not like the established media. We don't act like them. We don't behave like them. We believe that people should go and do their own research. But as for the thing that we're about to say could possibly be a deep fake, don't go watch it yourself. Leave it to the experts. You shouldn't review it yourself. And look, I don't recommend watching it. But the reason I don't recommend watching it is because of the horrific nature of the video, because it's pretty clearly real, right? And so you don't have to go watch it. But if there's a question of the veracity of the video, then we have to go watch it, because making sure we confirm the veracity of the video is more important than our personal disgust over what is within the video. And so using this as a claim of, oh, don't go watch it yourself, please don't. Because if people go watch it themselves, if they go see what it is and they say, oh, wow, this isn't deepfake, this is very real. There's no evidence of deepfake. There's been nobody who's reviewed this footage that's come forward with, oh, this is deepfake. They will come to the conclusion, like everybody else, most likely, oh, this is real. This is disgusting. This is the type of behavior that Wagner behaves in regularly. This is what they do regularly. We should go support Ukraine, because Ukraine needs to fight back against this type of barbarism. And that's what it is. It is barbarism. It is barbarism of its purest form. In its most purest form. This is ISIS stuff. This is what ISIS does. And that's why we don't want them to go watch it. Don't watch it yourself. Leave it to the experts. What was that one line? I think this was said on CNN a while ago. There were like some leaked documents during the Hillary campaign in 2016. And then it was on CNN, like a CNN host. And this was mocked so much by alt media. They said, like, we're allowed to look at these documents because we're the news. And everybody laughed at them, rightfully so, because the idea that everyday Americans couldn't go look at these leaks themselves is ridiculous. They're out in the public. You have a right to see them. It is what it is. First Amendment, freedom of expression, freedom of the press. But the news station said that, whether it was just like a slip of the tongue or what it was, who knows? But it was silly, and it rightfully got criticized. Now this is said on Kim Iverson show. You go into the comment section of this video, nobody bats an eye. Because again, it's about contrarianism. I've said this a million times before. It's about contrarianism and just not being the mainstream. And what's not the mainstream? Well, the mainstream is, oh, we're disgusted at a beheading video because it's a beheading video. Oh, it's disgusting, and there should be a response to this. This is gross. And the contrarian position is, well, maybe it's a deep fake. And you couldn't think of a more contrarian position than maybe it's a deep fake with no evidence.
And first of all, we used to have a tenet in the United States called innocent until proven guilty. And I think there are obvious questions like cui bono. Why is the timing of this happening right now, just when I think Russia is about to perhaps finally take Bakhmut?
This is so diluted. This is so diluted. Number one, if you walked up to somebody and you have the principle in your mind of guilty until proven innocent, right? But then you have footage of R. Kelly doing what he did to this girl, and you walk up to him and you ask, R. Kelly, did you do what you did to that girl? That looks terrible. And R. Kelly's like, wow, that video's terrible. I don't know. Right? And there's a record of R. Kelly doing things to girls. How much room are you going to give him? How gullible are you? How much of a schmuck are you? Also, the timing of this is suspicious because they're about to take Bakhmut. Russia's been about to take Bakhmut for the last 10 months. 10 months. Are we really going to say, and this is what it's been covered, this is how it's been covered by the Russian press, this is how it's been covered by the Western press, is that they're about to take it for 10 months. They're always on the brink of taking it. They're always on the brink of taking Bakhmut. This means if Wagner was to do this in the last 10 months, at all in that time period, it would be like, wow, this timing is suspicious. They're about to take Bakhmut. If it was before that, it would be like, wow, this timing is suspicious. The Russians were about to take Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. Or, wow, this is suspicious because the Ukrainians are now engaged in a counteroffensive in Kharkiv and Kherson, where they can retake a bunch of territory. That's suspicious. It's just when the Ukrainians start the counteroffensive, oh, now all this evidence of war crimes comes out. This is what people will do to obfuscate from war crimes all the time, because you can find any number of activities that are going on in any war at any point in time to make you just try to create this narrative. For example, let's say Germany invades Poland. Germany obviously starts committing war crimes because of their ideology, because of the disgusting nature, and a million different factors. And then you have this person come out and say, really, the Germans are going to commit all these war crimes when they're winning? Why? Why? They're winning right now. Why would they commit all the war? Why would they do... They bombing civilians in war. Why would they do it? They have Warsaw surrounded. It doesn't make any sense. Number one, this assumes that that the Russian military is like, it has direct control over every soldier, right? That Russia, like in 1 week, can say nobody do any war crimes this week, and everyone will be like, okay, they barely can contain their command and control structure as it is and have good control of it. They've had problems with it the whole war. And you think they're going to have such strong discipline in the Russian army when they're literally recruiting tons and tons of prisoners, specifically into Wagner, by the way. They're recruiting murderers, rapists, and killers and pedophiles in the Wagner. And now, wow, look at all these crimes they're committing. What a surprise. And this is the group. This is the group which has a record of doing this, is full of prisoners and murderers, quite literally full of murderers, admits to this activity, has filmed themselves doing this activity, and oh, it's so surprising that they would be caught at just this moment. This is just obfuscating. This is the fact that they don't want to accept what happened on this footage, because then they look like pieces of shit. Because then they look like heartless bastards. Heartless bastards who don't care when ISIS-style beheadings happen. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. And that's why they have to obfuscate like this.
The Ukrainians have to, well, I shouldn't say the Ukrainians, because it's really a proxy war between the US, UK, NATO against Russia. And
those Ukrainians are just too stupid to think for themselves. Those low IQ Ukrainians. I mean, when you look at the polling data, and the vast majority of them want to keep fighting till victory, and they believe in Ukrainian independence, they believe in Ukrainian sovereignty, they believe in keep fighting until they've liberated their neighbors. I mean, you could look at the independence referendum of 1991, where every single province of Ukraine voted to be independent. You can look at the fact that Zelensky himself actually won most of his votes in Eastern Ukraine when he ran in 2019. The provinces that people are saying would never ever align with Zelensky's government. I mean, it's just, oh my God, man. It's ridiculous. Just removing the autonomy of the Ukrainian people. Just gonna add insult to injury.
And also China. So how do they get this to continue?
That's what it is, by the way. It's removing the autonomy, because she would never, I don't know if she's even met a Ukrainian person before, but she would never say this to a Ukrainian person, that if going to Ukraine, be like, hey, you know what, this is a proxy war, because they would respond, we made the decision to continue to struggle. When Kiev was being marched upon, we were the ones who pushed them back. When the territorial defense was formed in villages across the country and they stopped the Russian army, the reason they were able to was because there was so much overwhelming support to not returning to the Russian occupation of the Tsardom. Overwhelming support. And all of that raced away immediately. Just America's puppeteering them, remove all of their autonomy.
Do they, since they're running out of ammunition, is the next move going to be to send American troops or Western troops into this conflict?
There's been no indication that we're going to be doing that. She's just pointlessly fear-mongering. There's nothing you can point to. It could just, just think of the logic. I'm sorry I'm pausing on everything, but this woman is extremely aggravated and extremely uneducated, or just a nefarious liar. Why would it be that America wouldn't just produce more ammunition and send them more ammunition, and they would rather send troops on the ground, which would be unbelievably unpopular, come with a decent amount of backlash after Biden also pledged to not put boots on the ground. It would just make more sense to send the ammunition. In fact, we're making moves to do that. We just made an agreement with the South Koreans for them to send 500,000 artillery shells to the United States to fill our backlogs as we send more artillery to the Ukrainians. Why not just make more deals like that?
How would they get that done? So I think the first step is to find out if it's true. And I also have to raise the question of the double standard. I mean, somehow when ISIS was decapitating people, and there were also gruesome, hideous videos of that, it didn't stop the United States from funding them.
It's just a lie. This is something that has been pushed for a while. I think it maybe originated from Grayson. I have no clue where it originated, but we didn't fund ISIS. What she's talking about, and this is always the root cause of it. And I've been confronted about this on stream before, and every time I say I will give you money if you can prove we were directly and purposely funding ISIS, right? What actually happened was that we dropped money and funds. It was mostly guns, though, mostly guns to rebel groups, and then the rebel groups would start fighting with people, and then ISIS during that fighting would pick up some of those guns, and that is turned into we were funding ISIS. You see how dishonest that is? You can even still disagree with that. You can be like, Timber Sycamore was awful, but that's not funding ISIS. It's just being pointlessly hyperbolic for effect so you can get updates on the internet.
So I
gotta say, I said the Midwestern Marxist was the best speed liar. This woman might be challenging for his title.
think we have to find out whether it's true. And there have been statements from leaders in Chechnya and Lugansk who are disputing the validity of the thing on the face of it because...
Wow, Chechnya, the Kadyrov regime? Wow, that's directly reliant on Putin for the regime to stay stable? I wonder why. And the occupied province of Luhansk? Really? By the way, I always notice when they say the Russian way, not the Ukrainian way. Just the same reason why she probably never met a Ukrainian. And so probably only ever met Russians. Why are we supposed to take their word at it? Their word. Why are we supposed to assume that? We have all the evidence overwhelmingly. They denied Bucha too, and that was proven to be real. And she's saying Chechnya in that province because other state officials didn't even deny it. They just said it was bad and who knows. They just said it was bad and who knows. And that's after they denied all the other war crimes because they want some of the stink of it on themselves to intimidate the enemy. That's why they did it through the Wagner group. And by the way, I don't want to not necessarily insinuate that this was a grand master plan like the Russian command said, go behead 2 or 3 people. It could just be, and I think this is probably also the most likely outcome, that the Wagner group is full of a bunch of butchers, both literally from prison and from just their history of being butchers in Ukraine and around the world, because they've committed not only war crimes in Ukraine, but in Syria and in Central Africa. And they're just individual soldiers doing horrific crimes or individual units doing horrific crimes. And there's just a culture of it in the organization. And so they feel like this is okay because it's reinforced by their government that Ukraine is full of a bunch of Banderite, horrific, disgusting people, parasites, all this. And so this type of behavior, you know, if you have that idea of your enemy in your head, as well as of videos on Telegram scrolling up of your commanders posting footage of you executing people with sledgehammers, it's not that crazy that they would do this.
The uniforms don't match up and various other questions.
They say the uniforms don't match up. I look back at the video and I was trying to figure it out. This is just because I think she's dumb. The Wagner group and the Russian military, they have, like the official Russian military, they have different uniforms. I just think I don't know. I just think she doesn't know anything.
Yeah, which is why they're saying that maybe it's the Wagner group, which maybe has a little bit of, you know, they have different.
Even Kim has to walk in and be like, okay, you're a little too off. You're even too off the rails. A reminder that Kim Iverson was the person who said that the port explosion in Lebanon was done by the Mossad and the CIA because one official said that it could have been Chinese fireworks, which could have been the West trying to pin it on China in order to undermine the Belt and Road Initiative in Lebanon. No evidence besides that. And she said, boom, look at that. It was done by the Mossad and CIA and just ran with it. That's the tiniest barrier of evidence. She doesn't need evidence to claim things. And even she is blown as and needs to correct the track, needs to get her back on the rails because of how bizarre her statements are here, how out of touch with reality she is. She has to do some course correction.
uniforms and equipment than the actual Russian soldiers. But yeah, I mean, the double standard is certainly a point to make. I mean, war crimes happen on both sides. I think war is terrible. There's never a good side to war.
Yes, there is. I mean, when you say good side to war, war is bad, but there's good sides and bad sides. And I mean, of course, there's never any black and white. All this side has only done good things and all this side has done bad things. But you can point to one side which you believe is the more moral side and one side which is the least moral side. I would say that with Ukraine and this war. I would say that with the United States and the Civil War. I would say with the United States in World War II. I would say with a whole host. I would say it would be the Algerians during the war against the French and during the independence struggle. There'd be different things. A million different things you could point to. But yeah, war is bad. Very uncontroversial take. But also the idea that war crimes happen on all sides. This makes it sound like, oh, it's 50-50. And I mean, you could say that about all wars. All wars, war crimes happen on both sides. But if you were to compare German war crimes to American war crimes during the Second World War, to even say it was comparable, is to basically lie by omission. To lie by omission by not including the data or how overwhelming the war crimes are on one side. And I mean, I don't even need to argue with you with the Russian military culture or the overwhelming evidence that's been posted online. I can just simply put it this way. Russia's invading Ukraine. Ukraine isn't invading Russia. Russia has just physically more capacity to do war crimes. And as on top of all of the cultural issues with war crimes and the fact that it's normalized in the Russian military and how they've demonized the Ukrainians and how they engaged in cleansing operations in Kiev Oblast. You can look that up for yourself if you want to know what it was. It's as ominous as it's as scary as it sounds. Like, come on. This is so low effort, man. This is so low effort. If you watch this, I honestly think you need to take a cognitive test before like getting behind like a big machine. If you're like a forklift driver or just like, I don't know, you wanted to drive a go-kart.
As a general or president or whoever's in charge of the military, you can't control everybody that's in your military. Right. And certainly there are certain types of people attracted to fighting in war that are people who, sometimes when there's a war, certain people rise up and say, I'm going to go because I want to kill people. You know, they just have that. They're that type of person, and those types of people exist, unfortunately. You
could say this about I could see her during the Nuremberg trials. Like, look, it's bad, all those Jews dying, but America, has killed people. Did you Dresden? Why is nobody bringing up Dresden? Why is nobody you can make this argument for any amount of wars, but it's so disproportionate that again, it's a lie by omission to not include information about how disproportionate it is. Tink, thank you so much for the tier 1 being sub for 15 months.
In every country, you get these really warmongery, murderous types that relish in human suffering of this way. So I don't doubt that this video is real. I don't doubt that war crimes happen on both sides. I mean, of course, it could always come out that this video isn't real, that it is a deep fake. I'm always open to that. But we have certainly seen...
Throws it. See how thumbnail and title, that's what it's based upon. No evidence, no like, hey, this expert said this. It could be. I mean, anything could be deepfaked. The moon landing could be deepfaked. I don't know. I could be deepfaked right now. Do we know that this is really Dylan Burns TV? We need an independent investigation to truly prove this is Dylan Burns TV. Hey, you know how all those people who get canceled for saying slurs or anything evil on camera? Until we have a full-blown investigation to dig into the roots of it about the deepfake, we can't truly report on it. And that's the thing. She could have gone and gotten a deepfake expert or somebody to come on and be like, look at the footage. Like, yeah, no, this is not deepfake. Yeah, obviously this is not deepfake. If she had any evidence whatsoever that it was deepfake, she would have put it forward. But now, thumbnail, deepfake. Title, deepfake. All based upon this one sentence, man. She is very good at propaganda. And I try not to use that word lightly, but that's what this is. That is what this is. And I mean, she did get money from the Hiroshima Awards, which basically acts as a proxy for pro-Assad lobby groups. So, just putting that out there.
Lots of war crimes happen even on the Ukrainian side. Patrick Lancaster, he's there. He was in Donbass. He was all around the region, actually.
They were in Dresden. The American bombs killed Germans. But now everyone complain about Himmler. What about George Patton? Patton is a mean man.
Filming things firsthand, and he even saw mutilated women that had Nazi swastikas carved into their bodies, and that was happening on the Ukrainian side. There's just murderous, terrible people that are always loving to get involved in war, whether the war is justified or not. Wanting to
There's this zero journalistic integrity here of well, let's analyze what is the Wagner group like. Let's look at what they've done in the past. Let's look at their public statements around war crimes and what they're okay with. Let's look up what type of criminals and butchers make up their organization. Oh, well, let's bring in just nothing, absolutely nothing. It's just, well, everybody does a little war crime here and there.
Go in there.
It's just a giant whataboutism. It's just a bunch of stuff to confuse you, oh, deep fake, who knows? And what about ISIS? We gave ISIS guns. Just a bunch of just random nonsense to distract you. Might as well just be shaking keys in front of the camera to disassociate you from the main point before saying war crimes happen all the time, don't they? Isn't that sad?
Do horrible, horrible things. It's really, really sickening. But you're right, and the timing of this is questionable. Why is this video being released now? Is this something that's happening now? Some people say that it looks like from the weather that this was a video from even last year, but it would be used now because now is the time that Ukraine is scrambling to remain in the war and not have to negotiate and concede certain amounts of land to Russia, that this video would be used.
It's just pure speculation. She's just speculating, but that's always what she does. She doesn't report, she speculates. She'll do a news story, then randomly speculate about a bunch of stuff on information she doesn't have, just like she did about Lebanon. Just pure speculation, just throwing stuff out there. Could stick, could not stick, who knows? Just throwing as much feces at the wall. Actually, this is a lot how Russian state media operates. Just throw as many narratives at the wall as you can, whether it's bioweapons in Ukraine or any number of narratives, genocide in the Donbass. Ukraine actually invaded us. Throw a million false narratives at the wall and see whatever sticks, because something will stick, something will communicate to the audience, and therefore if somebody comes out later and debunks one of it or debunks two of it, because I'm only doing one thing about Kim Iverson, I'm not going to go through all of her videos and debunk her stuff. I do not care to watch your content that much, and even if I do one or two, there's going to be 10 others she can point to and be like, yeah, well, what about this? Because it's a lot easier to smear feces on the wall than it is to clean it.
To pull heartstrings, to make Americans want to rile people up in the NATO nations to want to continue funding and supporting this war. So I think we'd have to be very cautious of that, surely.
So can we think, oh, this timing, isn't this timing so suspicious? The Russians have been trying to take Bakhmut for 10 months. I've done the math on this. I recently watched Letters for Iwo Jima. 8.5 Iwo Jimas, the Battle of Iwo Jima. That's how long this has been going on for. Double the length of the Battle of Stalingrad. So just any footage that comes out in the last 10 months, we have to be like, suspicious timing. You could have said that for any point in the war, because there was battles going on, whether it was the Battle of Severodonetsk, the counteroffensive in Kharkiv, Kherson, all these different battles going on at different times of the war. You could have made this argument at any point in the war. Any war crime that gets documented and shown to the public, you could have said, suspicious timing. It's a nonsensical argument,
as you mentioned. So, how do we combat that? This is a very emotional video. It's sickening to watch. So how do we then tell people, no, we can't continue on. We have to negotiate peace?
Well, I think we have to.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. How do we show these videos? By the way, don't watch the video. Please don't look for the veracity of yourself. Could be deepfake. Don't watch it yourself. Maybe this, because if you do, maybe it'll be hard for you to be convinced it's a deepfake. How do we convince people when there's like ISIS-style beheadings and looting and pillaging and terror going on that maybe we should actually abandon those people? It's a hard pitch, isn't it, Kim?
Change the culture. And maybe we're not going to change the culture in time to stop World War III, but I think it's something to
Wow, we're all going to die. Thank you very much. Brilliant commentary.
Consider, because the media really does this all the time. I get the New York Post update and they say, watch horrific video of mother throwing her infant out the window, or, you know, you're always being given this horrible clickbait, which reminds me of St. Augustine.
It's not clickbait if it's real. It was a real video. You can see it. You can go watch it right now. Anybody at home can go watch the footage right now. It's not clickbait. It's not Ukrainian soldier POW beheaded, and then you show it and it's like a Gmod animation, right? It's a video. It's not clickbait if it's real and you can see it. If you can see the video, that's definitionally not clickbait.
Stein's description in the confessions about how he himself got addicted to the bloodlust of going to the Colosseums and realized that this was a horrific.
Dog, we're talking about the Colosseums now, dude. I'm so, oh my God. So,
kind of addiction. So one, it's very important to separate the emotional response from reason. And
look how much she has to squirm to try to be like, don't care. Look, the beheadings, it is, you know, they suck. You know, war crime, deep fake, who knows, suspicion. Don't do anything. In fact, abandon the people who are being beheaded. That's my advice. Look how difficult it is for her to squirm herself into that position.
And obviously such things are atrocious. This is why we should never allow situations to devolve into war. Because when people are desperate, when people are worked up, if people are on drugs, if people have had similar atrocities committed against them or people they know, I mean, this is what happened in the 30 Years Religious War. If you've seen, you know, paintings from after in the 1650s or 60s, everybody is missing arms and legs. And, you know, it was a horrible time. But the Treaty of Westphalia came after 4 years of negotiation. This wasn't an easy negotiation. But why? Because people said, you know what? We have been in war. It was actually about a century, really. But
oh my God. Okay, she's just rambling now. We're done. We're done. I don't want to watch any more of this. This woman's sickening. The LaRouchites are clowns. She's a clown. Kim Iverson is a nefarious propagandist who lies and just speculates while trying to treat it like it's analysis. Wildly speculates, gets to conclusions that are just factually unsupported, just like she did in Lebanon, just like she did here. It's very silly. She's not a reporter. She's a fantasy writer. Might as well be writing fan fiction, man. You do much better on Wattpad. I'm gonna be honest.